Hello, my name is Jackson Lanier. Today I will be presenting my analysis of the United States influenza crisis. So, why are we interested in the flu? Every year, the U.S. has a flu season where more people than usual suffer from the flu. Let me explain what I mean by more people than usual. According to the Center for Disease Control, flu activity in the U.S. begins to increase around October and remains at a heightened state until around May. From 2009 to 2017, 68% of flu deaths in the U.S. occurred between October and May. In other words, over two-thirds of flu deaths occurred during the months the CDC considers to be flu season. Because of the increase in patients during flu season, a medical staffing agency sends extra staff to hospitals and clinics across the U.S. The staffing agency needs help determining where to send their temporary staff. In order to make recommendations to the staffing agency on where to send additional staff, I've analyzed the relationship between the flu, age, population sizes, and geographic location. I'll explain my analysis, make recommendations to the staffing agency for the 2018 flu season, then discuss future analyses and data limitations. According to data from the CDC from 2009 to 2017, the U.S. saw over 400,000 flu deaths. Now, who is dying from the flu? As you may have guessed, age has a significant impact on flu deaths. The CDC considers anyone over the age of 65 particularly vulnerable to the flu. However, the vast majority of flu deaths occur in the 75 years and older age group. This bar chart shows the dramatic increase of flu deaths found in older age groups of the U.S. population. I want to emphasize the significance of flu deaths in the 75 and older age group. From 2009 to 2017, 78% of all flu deaths in the U.S. occurred in the 75 and older age group. The high percentage of flu deaths in the 75 and older age group led me to test the correlation between this age group and flu deaths. There's a very strong correlation between the 75 and older age group and flu deaths. The correlation testing results giving a correlation coefficient of 0.95. Additionally, a t-test confirmed that with the confidence level of 95%, there is a significantly higher rate of flu deaths in the 75 and older age group than anyone 0 to 74 years old. Because of the strong relationship between the 75 and older age group and flu deaths, the analysis I've performed focuses on the 75 and older age group. Once determining which age group to focus on, I begin to wonder if geographic location plays a role in flu deaths. Are there more flu deaths in specific regions of the U.S.? Additionally, do states with higher populations of the 75 and older age group experience more flu deaths? This bubble chart can help us answer both questions. Each bubble represents a different U.S. state. The position of the bubbles, as well as this trend line, show us that states with larger populations of the 75 and older age group tend to have more total flu deaths. The color of the bubbles represents different geographic regions of the U.S. There is no particular region that stands out as experiencing more total flu deaths than other regions. Currently, this chart is only displaying data from 2009. If we look at data from 2009 to 2017, we can see that the same states have similar numbers of flu deaths and the 75 and older population from year to year. In summary, the correlation between a state's population and the 75 and older age group and total flu deaths occurs regardless of the state's geographic region. The next question I explored in my analysis is which specific states have high populations of the 75 and older age group.
The states with the largest 75 and older populations are California, Florida, New York, Texas, and Pennsylvania. These 5 states also had the most flu deaths during the same time period. Looking at this map of the U.S. will give you an idea of where in the U.S. the states with the large populations of the 75 and older age group and large numbers of flu deaths are located. California, Texas, Florida, Pennsylvania, and New York are all spread across the U.S. They all have high numbers of flu deaths and large populations of the 75 and older age group. Another common factor these states share are their large total populations. The darker shades of green in this bar chart represent larger total populations. It makes sense that states with larger populations of the 75 and older age group would have both higher counts of flu deaths as well as larger total populations. At this point, I began to focus on the idea that additional medical staffing should be sent to the states with the largest populations of the 75 and older age group. Let's explore this idea in more detail. In an effort to ensure my recommendation to send additional medical staffing to the states with the largest 75 and older populations is solid, I forecasted the flu deaths for the 10 states with the largest 75 and older populations. Using exponential smoothing with seasonality, I forecasted flu deaths in 2018 with a 95% confidence interval. Let's look at California. There's a 95% chance that the 2018 flu deaths will be between roughly 55 and 6,500. The forecasted deaths for the 5 states with the largest population of the 75 and older age group all have a similar range of forecasted flu deaths. In New York, for example, the 95% confidence interval predicts somewhere between roughly 4,000 and 5,000 deaths. As you can see in this line chart, there is no significant difference in these states' 2018 forecasted flu deaths from flu deaths in previous years. One important factor to consider in this analysis is possible differences in flu deaths from month to month. Do certain states have peak months for flu deaths? If so, could medical staffing potentially be pulled from a state and sent to a different state if their peak months differed? Unfortunately, this does not appear to be a possibility. Using the same forecasting method seen in the annual forecast above, this line chart forecasts 2018 flu deaths month by month. For the sake of clarity, I will only show one state at a time. Starting with California, we can see that the 2018 forecasted flu deaths peak in the month of January and decline slightly in the following few months to rise again later in 2018, starting around October. This holds true for all states with a large population of the 75 and older age group. Let's take a look at some of those other states. If we look at Florida, we will see an estimated peak in January of 2018, followed by a decline with a rise beginning around October of 2018. We will see the same thing in New York, Pennsylvania, and Texas. For this reason, I do not think it would make sense to pull staffing from California, New York, Texas, Pennsylvania, or Florida and send them to another state.
With the forecasts in mind, my official recommendation to the staffing agency is to send additional medical staffing to California, New York, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Based on the forecasted number of flu deaths starting in January of 2018, 30% of available staff should be sent to California, 25% to New York, 15% to Texas, 15% to Florida, and 15% to Pennsylvania. Ideally, the additional staff would remain in these states through the end of the flu season, May of 2018, and return at the beginning of the next flu season in October of 2018. Because each state follows a similar pattern in their forecasted 2018 flu deaths, there is no ideal time to pull staff from one state and send them to another state. This recommendation is based on the assumption that the medical staffing agency has a limited number of staff available to send out. I will discuss this more when covering data limitations. If additional staffing becomes available or is still available after adequately staffing the first 5 states, the agency's next focus should be to send staffing to the states with the next largest populations of the 75 and older age group, such as Illinois, Ohio, North Carolina, Michigan, and New Jersey. Analysis of the flu season across the U.S. should not end here. Data should be collected through the 2018 flu season so that an assessment can be made on the effectiveness of sending additional medical staffing to the states with the largest populations of the 75 and older age group. As time passes, a state's vulnerable population could change in size. For this reason, I believe future analyses should also pay attention to changes in a state's population size, especially their 75 and older population sizes. Changes in vulnerable population sizes could result in a state no longer requiring additional medical staffing during flu season. Throughout my analysis, I encountered several data limitations. One major limitation is the lack of available data on exactly how many staff the medical staffing agency has available for sending out across the U.S. Knowing the number of additional staff available to send out could allow for a more precise recommendation on how many staff to be sent to different states and whether there are enough staff members to send to more than the 5 states with the largest 75 and older populations. The CDC recommends a nurse-to-patient ratio of 1 to 5. If we knew the number of additional staff available, we could prioritize sending additional staff to states where there are too few nurses for the number of expected patients. This would also require some type of data on a state's current nurse-to-patient ratio. Another limitation is the lack of data on influenza deaths at the local level. Flu deaths are recorded by the CDC at the state level. If flu deaths were recorded at the county or city level, we could potentially recommend sending additional staff to specific cities across the U.S. This could be more effective than sending staff to medical facilities across an entire state. One final limitation I found in my analysis is a bias in flu deaths data. If a state has less than 10 flu deaths in any month, the exact number of flu deaths is not made available by the CDC. To mitigate this bias, reports of less than 10 deaths were excluded from my analysis. Because states with less than 10 flu deaths in any given month did not have large vulnerable populations, excluding this data had little to no impact on my analysis. In other words, even if the exact number of deaths were available, cases of less than 10 deaths would not have changed how I conducted my analysis or the results I found. Therefore, this data bias does not affect my forecasting or recommendations. Thank you for viewing this presentation. The data used in this presentation is made available to the public by the Center for Disease Control and the U.S. Census Bureau.